And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Just Jake today. Ben, in theory, will be back coming up tomorrow. But joining the show right off the top, my guy, you hear him from noon to 3 every single day right here on the KSL Sports Zone. He is also the voice of the Utah State Aggies. No big deal. He is the one and only Scott Gerard. Scott, thanks for jumping on. I know it's a little last minute. Ben can explain if he wants to tomorrow. But I appreciate you jumping on. What's up, dude?
Yeah, no worries, man. Happy to do it. How's everything in your world?
Oh, man, so good. How's your weekend? Everything pretty solid?
Yeah, I used the rain as an excuse to get out of a lot of yard work.
Good
and
for you.
So I would call it a success for sure.
Yeah, but you love lawn work. You separate lawn work and yard work, which I don't.
I do. Actually, I'm a little bummed. There's a lot of stuff I wanted to get done. But I did buy a new pole saw, which I'm very excited about. So,
I've lived where I've lived for a long time. I got new neighbors. I was flanked by two widows forever, and I got new neighbors in 2020. And my new neighbor owns a lawn care company.
Oh, nice.
And that has been very bad for my laziness, if that makes any sense.
Gotcha. No, that makes total sense.
It's pretty easy just to, the truck is parked next door and has a number on it that says lawn care. It's like, I'll just call them.
Yeah.
So I've always been jealous of your passion for a good lawn because I've cared for that particular lawn for like 20 years, and it's terrible. And I think it's me.
I've seen your yard. Your yard's not bad at all, man.
Well, it's not great. And we have to plant, to your point, stuff because it's after Mother's Day, which is always the greatest excuse ever to not do yard stuff.
Yeah.
And now that has passed, so that's depressing.
Yeah, Mother's Day is always kind of the benchmark in planting flowers and shrubs and all that stuff because you're not going to get a freeze after Mother's Day. So
in theory, it was like hailing this morning.
I know. Yeah, no, I know. So there's always some exceptions to the rule, but usually Mother's Day is kind of your benchmark.
Yeah.
I always thought because that's what. My parents always said that, but for some reason, when I got my first place, I thought it was Easter. And so I planted just as my first house, and, man, I went to town, bought hundreds of dollars worth of flowers and stuff like that, and went nuts. And then, of course, it froze and snowed, and all of them died. And I was telling my parents, I'm like, you guys said Easter. Like, no, we didn't. We said Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day, man. Don't do stuff before at Easter. That's ridiculous.
That's on you.
I'm like, okay.
Okay. Got to learn the hard way sometimes.
Yeah.
Scotty G. You know what I mean? All right. Well, I'm going to take advantage of having you on today and talk about a bunch of different stuff. So I hope you don't mind.
Let's go.
And I want to start in the NBA in a topic Ben and I have talked a lot about, but I want to get your take on it. Donovan Mitchell can't get out of the second round. And I thought that this season for Cleveland seemed awfully familiar to me.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious as to your take on why. Is it dumb luck or is there a reason?
I would say with this Cleveland team, it was more dumb luck. I think the injuries, I would have liked to have seen to test the Donovan theory with a fully leaded Cleveland Cavalier team. Had they not dealt with the injuries the way they did, I think they probably are in the Eastern Conference Finals. But, yeah, the curse of Donovan, it does feel very real. And I took some heat from some people that shall remain nameless, I'll tell you. But when he went off and said, hey, we let the city down, we let the town down, blah, blah, I'm like, wow, that's like the most Donovan quote ever. Uh-huh. I mean, that is Donovan in a nutshell, with a season that did not live up to expectations, that fell short of a regular season that was just incredible for Cleveland. And then at the end of the day, they still are without making an appearance in the conference finals. But the injuries they have to play a little bit in this. If this happens with a team that is completely healthy, then you're like, okay, yeah, all right, that makes sense. But I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass with the injury. But you go back and you look at the Jazz team, you're right. I mean, they cruise through the regular season. They win 50-plus games. They're the number 1 seed in the West. And they're up, if memory serves me correct, they're up 2-0 in that series against the Clippers. And then the Clippers reel off 4 in a row and bounce them in 6. And you're like, oh, and that was really the end of that Jazz team, don't you think? I mean, that's honestly what really made everybody realize, okay, this team had capped out. There's no going forward with
it. Was coming off the unsalvageable stuff, and there was already drama, and I would buy into that. I think. Well, let me run this by you because this is my thought. I think in the NBA there's this great battle between who's in control and who gets to call the shots and players, how they get to play, right? And Donovan wants to be a superstar that takes over playoff series at the end of games. And you look at his numbers and you go, oh, he's doing it. He's great. And then you realize he's not good enough to win you series like that, Krysten.
That?
Yeah, exactly. He's not good enough to do that. In fact, in Donovan's defense, I don't think there are very few players that do. Michael Jordan passed, right?
Oh yeah.
He made the correct basketball play, but I think there's this weird ego thing and star thing, and I'm this, and he's not. And I actually think the injuries are less of an excuse because if they're not playing down the stretch, what's the point? If it's Donovan on the rest of the team, I mean, think about it in your mind, Scotty. How many times did we see in the fourth quarter the Jazz blow leads while Donovan was playing on triple team and trying to do a spin move against 3 dudes? And it's like, no, this isn't. And then, Bogdanovich is the one we remember for hitting last second shots, right? I mean, we could go back and look at how many Donovan hit game winners. None come to mind for me, but we could do a little research. But I think Cleveland failed for similar reasons that Jazz team you alluded to failed. It's just he's not that. He's not him, as the young people once said.
Well, yeah, and we saw him yesterday in Oklahoma City, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just completely obliterate the Nuggets. Now, the Nuggets had their own issues, there's no doubt, but when he needed to play his best game, the dude goes for 38 and completely dismantles the team. But you're right. And this was, I remember having you remember our good old friend Jay Bird.
I do. He sends me audio messages
all the
time. Oh,
I love him. And Hans and I are going to find some way to work him into the show in terms of those voicemails that we get from Jay Bird that are 3 minutes long that are just awesome. But I look at early Kobe Bryant as an example of that because he and I used to argue all the time about because he loved Kobe right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, Kobe's great. And you would see Kobe have those moments early in his career where he was so dead set on being the guy and being the superstar. And he would force the issue late in games, much to the detriment of his team.
Right.
And it took a while for it to sink into Kobe, like, wait a minute. And you bring up a great example. There were 2 huge playoff wins that Michael Jordan was able to get based on passing. He beats the Suns passing out and getting a win. He beat the Jazz passing out and getting a win. Like, those are signature assists that Michael Jordan had in huge playoff games. And so the same thing could be said about Donovan. Now, Donovan isn't on the same planet as Kobe or Michael, and I'm not comparing that, but I'm saying knowing when to take the shot, when not to take the shot, when to allow yourself to be a decoy, when to force the issue. That's the evolution of Donovan Mitchell, and I'm not sure if he's going to get there because this day and age, this athlete, superstar in the NBA, doesn't seem to be overly interested in the assist that wins the game, because they would rather be in this, with Stephen A. and everybody that's going to scream and yell the following morning. What would you rather have them take issue with you? Missing a game-winning shot or passing out and having that guy miss a game-winning shot? Because they'll be like, oh, you're too scared to take a game-winning shot. You're too scared to be the guy. When in reality, it might be the best basketball move to get a teammate who's wide open, that baseline three. And if he misses it, though, but then everybody's going to throw you under the bus and say, oh, you're just too nervous to take that shot when you need to be that guy. I mean,
the Ben Simmons being scared to take layups and get fouled, don't confuse that for making the right basketball play. You know what I mean? I think you make a terrific point.
Hey, not to cut you off, I'm just sitting here on I've got the tweet deck open or whatever Elon calls it now. I'm not how did this happen? I'm trying to figure out the physics of this.
Hold on, let me bring it up. I saw it. Ben, by the way, not with us today because he wrecked his car. And we feel comfortable saying that because
he just posted a picture
posted a picture of it on the Snap Talk. And, I don't know. He hit a tree?
Yeah, but did he back into the tree? Like what? How? I'm trying to figure out, if he went to the left of the tree and then tried to get back on. But then I'm looking at the tire marks in front of the car. It looks like he got knocked back into the tree. The physics of this don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of comments saying, hey, Ben, you can't park there.
That's funny.
Oh, that's funny. I know that's like a thing on Twitter or Instagram or whatever the kids are on these days. And the other day, my 13-year-old and I were driving by, and we saw this accident, and he starts to roll down the window. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to yell out, hey, you can't park there. I'm like, don't do that. What are you doing?
I love your youngest so much. That's so funny. You can't park there. That is so funny. I'd be so angry if I got in a car accident and some wiseacre kids yells at me. I'd be
and that's
so
what
angry.
That's what the kids are doing is they're videoing themselves doing that, and the people that are in the wreck screaming and yelling and dropping all kinds of bombs on them.
You know what? Social media is just so terrible for society.
It is.
It's just so bad. So bad for everyone. All right. Well, shout out to Ben.
Yeah.
Ben's having a rough day. We were talking off the air, Scotty. There is no worse feeling in the world than the, what would you say, hour after you've gotten in a car accident?
It's the worst.
And I say that hyperbolically, obviously. There are worse feelings in the world, but you understand what I'm saying. That where you're just kind of rattled and you're sad and you're like, what am I going to do at the same time?
Yeah, and it's just it's a completely helpless feeling, too. It's like, wait a minute, like this is upended my life. And you don't realize how dependent you are on vehicles until you don't have one available to you. And then you're realizing, okay, I've got to adjust this part of my life now. It's unbelievable.
Ben's new best friend is UTA.
Yes. Have fun with that.
Have fun with that. All right. Well, shout out to Ben. We're sending good vibes Ben's way for sure. That's no fun way to start out the week. All right, Scotty, are we going to have, market-wise, the most boring NBA Finals possible? Is it going to be Indiana and Oklahoma City, two kind of blah towns in Middle America?
I almost said David Stern. Adam Silver is not going to be pleased with this, but this might do him a little bit of a solid because of the conspiracy theorists that are all upset about the NBA draft lottery. Because if he's going off on saying, you rigged it so that Dallas would be rewarded for giving Los Angeles Luka Doncic and all this other stuff. He's like, hey, look, if I'm rigging the NBA, I'm not having an NBA Finals with Indianapolis and Minnesota or Minneapolis or Oklahoma City and Indianapolis. His saving grace right now are the freaking New York Knicks, who, by the way, are really fun to watch. And I enjoy watching the Knicks on this run that they've been on. But I do think that they're running into a bit of a buzzsaw right now with the Pacers. Pacers are playing just really great basketball. And to your point, I really think you're looking at a situation right now where you've got 3 out of 4 markets that are not going to move the meter, and you might have the lowest rated NBA Finals in recent history. And I don't care because I love 3 out of those 4 teams.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't stand the Knicks, so obviously I hope they lose every game. And I'm super biased about the Pacers because I like their team. I like Halliburton. I like Pascal Siakam, Scotty.
Yes.
We go back with him to New Mexico State,
New Mexico State.
When he was brawling, what's-his-name's teams down there in Orem. Oh, why am I – Majerus' former assistant.
Yeah, Dick Hunsaker.
Dick Hunsaker. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, give me some Pascal Siakam. And Miles Turner. Remember when he and Rudy had such a sensitive relationship?
That's right. I forgot
who was it?
about that.
He said, like, Rudy ain't about that life or something like
Yeah.
that. Do you remember that whole thing? So I am rooting like heck for the Pacers. And I think they're a great story. I think they're an example, if you want to flip into a Jazz conversation. I do actually want to talk Utah State with you for a moment, too. But there's more than one way to get things done. I know everybody gets focused on take note, and I get why. But you can build things in a variety of different ways. And fleecing a bad franchise like they did with Halliburton appears to be paying off. And you hire a good coach. You make a good move for Siakam when people were going, what are you doing? You're just in the middle of the league. That's not where everybody wants to be. And bang, Eastern Conference Finals 2 years in a row. I love it. It's a great story.
I do too. And Oklahoma City, you bring up a really good point with them that while they have been really well run and they may get an NBA title out of this, so who are we to judge them? But did they wait too long with their assets? And should they have made even a bigger splash in terms of what they've built there? Because now you got to start paying guys.
Yeah, you're totally right. Absolutely. They should have made moves earlier because now, it's like what the Spurs are reportedly going to do, making a move for Giannis, right? They want to pay all these dudes while they have a superstar and a rookie deal. Makes a ton of sense. I think they may have missed on that. And Sam Presti isn't perfect, by the way. Remember, that's the guy who traded James Harden over a $5 million a year dispute.
By the way, I think enough time has passed that the Jazz were very much in the mix on the James Harden when he was leaving Oklahoma City. That there were people in that organization that felt like they had gotten James Harden, and that it was all but done, and then they weren't able to finish the deal. Yeah,
they drew a line in the sand, right, on another young player.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd believe it. But I'm happy because it spared me years of having to watch James Harden play every night. So that's
and I don't
really
think it would have been a
it.
lot of years. You may have only gotten a couple out of him, but before he would have figured out a way to get out of town. But
we don't have nearly the glitter resources that other places do.
It's like, when you step into a like a hotel or somewhere, and there's like a spearmint that mint that you have there that is just like the extra icing. Like, oh, I'm glad I'm staying here. Oh, and here's this, and
know exactly what you're talking about.
And our zoo may not have a lot of the rhinos that other
he's interested
areas
in.
have.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, fine rhinos, but just not his standards. No. I get what you're saying. All right, I want to ask you a Utah State question.
That was the worst thing I've ever done.
On the way out the door. I laughed. I thought it was funny.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought it was good. So Utah State now has a football coach in Bronco Mendenhall that I do believe him, believe it or not, when he says, he wants to stay in Utah State for a reason. Probably shouldn't believe him considering he just left a job after 1 year, but he does want to be close to his children who are in Provo, and Logan is right up his, rancher kind of thing alley, and I think it's a good hire and will make the football program more stable. And they're bringing back a basketball coach for the first time in a while, which I do think is good. You've got some stability there. I wonder, after all the, let's call it noise so loud that the feds had to get involved, and drama and lawsuits and all of the above, are we to the point where Utah State can be a little quieter? Where maybe, it can be normal for 10 minutes?
Oh,
you get what
man.
I'm saying? Like,
I would love nothing more. When we were down at Big 12 Media Day last July, and that's right when the Blake Anderson stuff and the firing and all that was going down, and I had a coach come up to me and say, we were talking about Utah State off the air, and he said, Can you guys just calm it down up there? Like, can you go a summer without any kind of drama? And I'm like, Coach, look, there would be nothing more that would make me happier. And I think that him locking everybody out of spring ball, myself included, was done just to be like, you know what? We're going to focus on us, and we're not going to allow anybody inside this building. Whether it's a booster, whether it's somebody that's running our NIL, whether it's a media schlub, our radio guy, whatever, we're not letting anybody in, and we're just going to focus on us. And he apparently went all military, where they say they tear you all the way down and then build you all the way back up. The guys that were returning, that were your stars, your leaders on this team, got treated the same way as a redshirt walk-on freshman. And they're like, okay, everybody's even here, and we're just going to build this thing up and let the cream rise to the top, whoever that may be. And by all accounts, and again, I wasn't able to watch it, but apparently players responded very well. And those that did not respond well are no longer with the program. Huge, massive turnover on that roster. And there are guys on that team that, frankly, I don't even know who they are. I have no idea what they bring to the table. We're all going to find out together in late August, early September. But I do think that's what this program needed. Bronco Mendenhall made too much sense. When his name popped up as that job, it's like, bam. That's exactly what the program needs from a football standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, from a culture standpoint. Blake Anderson is one of my best friends on the planet. I love Blake. I would take a bullet for Blake. But I will also say that whether the accusations are true or not, they needed something to come in and just say, hey, this is what we're doing now. Whatever happened in the past was in the past, but this is somebody that we know and has a reputation for being a straight arrow. And this is what we're going to do. And frankly, that is exactly what Utah State needed at this given moment. And you know what? I don't know if the results as far as wins and losses are going to follow. I think with Bronco, the track record is eventually they will. I don't know if it'll be this year, but I do think that that's what they needed on every level there at Utah State. And so far, it's been great because there's been no news coming out of Logan, which is what they've needed the most.
Yeah, to quiet down a little bit. Not to leave you on a downer. Did you know that dude that is now in such a bad situation in Indonesia?
I did not. He was, I think his last year was 2014, Jared Shaw. He was kind of in that later Stu Morrill, may have been on Stu's last team or his second to last team there in Logan. And yeah, I did not know him at that point. I wasn't covering the program very closely. They weren't particularly good in basketball at that time. It was kind of that downward slide that Stu and kind of went through as before he finally exited Utah State. And but a good player. I mean, he averaged, I think he was the leading scorer his last year at Utah State. And but yeah, I started in 17. His last year was in 14. So I have no, no relationship whatsoever. And that's not me trying to distance myself from him.
No, I was curious.
But that is a crazy,
awful story.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn makes a movie out of you story. I mean, wasn't Vince Vaughn in a movie where they got stuck overseas because they were smoking pot?
I have no idea. That sounds like something.
Vince Vaughn and Haish. There were a couple other people in it. Anyway.
Well, not good. I mean, obviously not a wise decision, and don't break the law, people in a foreign country especially, but man, I hope it works out better than it could.
Woo.
Yeah.
You ain't a kidding on that one.
All right, Scotty G, you are the best. In fact, you are so good. I'm going to repay the favor and do a segment with you on your show.
Awesome. Sounds good, man.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
you.
The great Scott Gerard, of course, here noon to 3 with Hans Olsen and also the voice of the Aggies. We have top 3 stories a day, KSLSports.com. Coming up next, Krysten Peek, our good friend, is going to join us at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. Poor Ben's missing his favorite guest.
Big show.
Yeah. So we're excited to talk to Krysten. Stay tuned for that. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
G-Bang!
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. That was a scheduled email that was a week late. That's what that was. Want to remind you can win big every week on the KSL Sports Zone with Win Ticket Wednesday. This Wednesday, win tickets to Judas Priest and Alice Cooper live at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on October the 12th. Tickets on sale now at livenation.com. Listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day on Wednesday for your chance to win. All right, top 3 stories of the day, KSLSports.com. It's brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials, J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Krysten, where do you want to start today?
Number 1, big report from ESPN this morning saying the 76ers could possibly make a move for Lauri Markkanen.
This is Jonathan Gavoni, the draft guy.
Draft Express.
Yeah. I could see why they're interested in Lauri Markkanen. I could see why, honestly, the Jazz would have mutual interest in a deal, given that, Danny's always looking for the pigeon, and that very easily could be desperate Daryl Morey. So, yeah, scrape together a good deal out of Philly. I'd have to look in a little deeper to the assets that they have to move. But they're desperate. I mean, they've got a top 5 player in the league when he plays, and you don't want to part with him unless you absolutely have to. And so you've got to figure out a way to tape it back together. I don't know if it would work trading for Lauri. It would make them better, depending on what they had to give up. So I could see mutual interest there. They need another player for sure. Paul George was not the answer, and they've got to get Joel Embiid back on the floor. What do you think, Krysten? Star of the Saturday show every Saturday,
the
right
big
here.
thing here is they're saying that they could attach the number 3 pick to Paul George, which would be huge. So in theory, if the Jazz send Lauri, maybe pick 21 this year, and then a couple other future firsts for number 3 and Paul George, then you pick at 3 and 5. Of course, Philly would probably do everything they could to try and get pick 5, right? But
you would, in theory, not want to do that, depending on how many players up there that you like. I mean, could be interesting.
I personally, I do think that there's going to be a lot of interest in Lauri Markkanen, whether it's from the Rockets or the Spurs or, the Thunder. Basically, whoever misses out on Giannis and Kevin Durant, right? It's like Lauri is plan C.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ben has been talking about this for a little while now. I don't know that Lauri Markkanen exactly fits into the rebuild window. And the reason that you take care of him and sign him to that deal isn't necessarily to keep him throughout that deal. It's to be able to possibly turn that into something. And if it could be the number 3 pick, obviously that would be intriguing. So we'll keep an eye on it. But the idea of Lauri Markkanen being traded is one I think people should get used to. Whether it happens immediately or not, I think, and I said this at the time that he signed the deal, but I think the odds of him seeing the end of that deal in Salt Lake City are quite low. And by the way, I would guess that Lauri would like to be on a better team. I mean, not that he's looking to flee or didn't like his experience or any of those things we're all sensitive about, but it's probably the point where he'd like to be on a better team. He's getting paid, so go compete. And the Jazz are several steps away from that.
Paul George has 2 years left on his deal and then a player option, so essentially 3. And the money's close. Lowry's making about $46 a year. Paul George is about $49.
Oh, that's a terrible contract. That's such a bad deal. I can't believe the Philly signed him to that. They expected him to be better, but man, that's a bad contract. Yeah, because he's picking up that player option. So that contract quickly becomes the old maid.
Exactly.
But do the Jazz care? Because they could just wait him out and then buy him out at some point. So if they're not going to try and win for the next couple of years, which at the moment seems like the plan. All right, what's next?
Number 2, big game 7 yesterday. It was Oklahoma City that got the win. They're going to move on to the Western Conference Finals.
Fires the 3 straight away. It's online, tumbling in there. Cha-ching, a Thunder money ball. SGA's got 35, and the Thunder have a Game 7 win, up 114-76, 7:40 left. Timeout, Thunder.
All right, the Thunder win. The Thunder advance going to the Western Conference Finals. I do think that they were always the better team than Denver. But the Nuggets gave them all they can handle, and now the reports are out there that they're going to make Adelman their interim coach, their head coach. That hasn't officially happened, but that's kind of the rumor that's floating around out there. So I guess good for the Nuggets for giving the Thunder more of a series. Ben was talking about this, too, the other day. It might have exposed the Thunder as not quite the dominant team that we thought, and I do think I lean more that way, that the Thunder are not necessarily what was that stat, Christian, everybody was quoting before the playoffs, that their win whatever was the highest in history? Their win share, is it win shares? What is it? They were quoting a stat.
One of those super analytics
everyone
nerd stuff.
that has had this sort of thing has gone on to be the champion. No way Oklahoma City loses. I don't think that that is the case. What'd you think of Rusty's game? One of the all-time worst playoff performances ever, Rusty Westbrook. In 22 minutes, managed 2 of 7 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3, 5 boards, 2 assists, but here's the kicker, minus 34 in the plus-minus.
I think his plus-minus for the series might have been something like one of the worst ever.
He is, there's a bunch of general managers out there that have thought now, oh, Rusty is the answer. He is not. He is an aging player that still plays like he's 25. Plays in mentality-wise, not skill-wise. But, he's not helping anybody because he can't shoot and he can't be a role player, and he has to have the ball in his hands the whole time. It doesn't work.
And then Michael Porter Jr., his arm can't move. And then Game 7, Aaron Gordon is a peg leg. So by then, it's literally just Jokic and Murray, right?
Honestly, Denver's biggest mistake was paying Michael Porter Jr., especially now. If we want to get into, team building and how to best spend your money, these average players that get big extensions because the team is somehow still thinking that they're going to be a superstar, all of a sudden those contracts turn out to be terrible because your first, your rookie deal and rookie extension are based on potential, right? Well, that first contract after the rookie extension, there's also some of that potential mixed in there. And so if by then you don't know that Michael Porter Jr. is just a guy, but you pay him like a star, you're going to pay the price for that. And it's the reason Denver is in big trouble this offseason. Big trouble.
They're even talking about paying Christian Brown like $30 million a year, and he's a fine player, but $30 million is a lot for a team that, like you're saying, is already strapped.
You have to be smart with what contracts you give and who you give them to. If you want to talk about Oklahoma City, getting off Josh Giddey was the smartest thing they could have done for a variety of reasons. And one, Giddey's a flawed player, but he's not a bad player. But based on that P word potential, and you drafted him, invested this and that and this, we're going to give him more money than he was going to be worth. And you probably had to pick, who am I going to give more money than they're probably worth? And this is another of Ben's big things, Jalen Williams or Josh Giddey. And they picked Williams, and he might not be good enough either. But at least he's a two-way dude that brings a bunch to the table. So you got to be careful. And Denver they're in big trouble. There's not a whole lot that they can do this offseason unless it's make a fairly major move, because they just don't have any money. And their previous GM was so bad that this team is basically at an end point. So they're going to have to make a major move. And who's going to trade for Michael Porter Jr. at this point, or give a king's ransom for him?
Right, and it's not like they have picks to attach, right?
Yeah,
like you can't incentivize teams.
Exactly. I mean, everybody's talking about Milwaukee moving on from Giannis. Honestly, when's the conversation about the Nuggets moving on from Jokic? Because what are they going to do? Flip the entire team around him this year? I don't think that's possible. And surround him with a championship competitive roster. But right now, they don't even have enough money to pay anybody coming off the bench. They went to the break glass in case of emergency solution last year and signed Rusty. Like, give me Rusty Westbrook's agent on the phone.
It's tough because
they got nothing else.
They don't win that Clippers series without Westbrook, I don't think. But then, right, he falls apart in the Thunder series. So that's kind of the dynamo of what he is, right? You get hot and then you get really cold.
Yeah, he's not a solution. Certainly not a solution for what Denver's looking for. So very interesting. I think Oklahoma City and Minnesota is going to be a great Western Conference final. I think Minnesota is good at some of the things that Oklahoma City is bad at, which makes it, I think, a more even matchup. The superstar matchup certainly is awesome. You know, Ant-Man against Shea. Yes, please. I'll take as much as that as I can possibly get.
And Caruso really balled out yesterday, too.
That bald guy who plays hard. I'm telling you, if you get players to understand what their role in the league is and lean into that, you can go a long way. You know, Caruso battled his way onto the Lakers roster. He was an undrafted guy. Somebody got in his ear and told him, like, you're going to have to be a scrappy dude that guards all the time and then is a really smart player who makes good decisions. And he's like, okay, I can do that. You're not going to be an all-star, but you're going to be in the league forever because every team needs that guy. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that Giddey for Caruso deal is brilliant on a number of different levels. Because you don't really have to pay the Carusos of the world either. At least not.
Because he's not scoring 30 points a game.
Yeah, at least not max money, not even close, because he's a role guy. But he's more important to that team than Josh Giddey was, who in theory is more than that. Chicago's going to pay him like he's more than that. All right, what's next?
And number 3, Scotty, he picks up another win.
The king of golf conquers the Queen City at Quail Hollow. Scottie Scheffler is a PGA champion.
Scottie Scheffler is dominating golf more, I think, than any golfer we've seen since Tiger, and we talked about the Tiger Slam and all of that. But, I mean, did you see the story that he had to play with a new driver?
I was just reading that before we got going.
So he had to throw his driver in the garbage and play with a new driver, and we can get into why. It's somewhat interesting. Admittedly did not hit the driver well and still went out and dominated the tournament. Wins going away with a 5-stroke advantage over Bryson DeChambeau, Davis Riley, and Harris English. Now, John Rahm totally collapsed. They were tied going into the back 9, and he ended up finishing, let's see here, where did he finish? -4. So a pretty epic collapse for John Rahm, but Scheffler is dominating and had a 69, 68, 65 on Saturday and a 71 to win it going away. And I'll tell you what, when he doesn't get arrested before the tournament, things really go his way.
Even when he does. Didn't he win that one?
No, he didn't. It was last year's PGA. He did not win.
I think as much hubbub as there was on Friday about, like, who the heck are these guys at the top of the leaderboard, and then Scotty ends up winning anyway, I thought that's the funniest part of all this.
Now, did you see, okay, so explaining why he had to throw his driver in the garbage, and he was not the only one. Rory McIlroy also had to do the same. But basically, and I did not know this, So they measure, when they inspect the drivers, they measure basically, in layman's terms, the springiness of the face. And the longer that you use a driver, the more springy it gets because the material wears, right? So in theory, you get longer drives the longer you play with a specific driver, which is not something that that I knew. John Rahm himself, or not John Rahm, excuse me, Scottie Scheffler. Let me see if I can find the quote here. Scottie Scheffler said this: "The driver testing is something that regularly happens on tour. My driver did fail me this week. We had a feeling that it was going to be coming because I've used that driver for over a year. I was kind of fortunate for it to last that long, I felt like," unquote. So he knew he was pushing it, which is kind of funny. And obviously they don't do this type of inspection regularly enough, but that was the explanation. I found that interesting.
Well, apparently he had a good backup plan.
Well, he didn't drive it well, Krysten. He's just that good. Honestly, he's got that complete a game where, you know, we see some guys like Bryson DeChambeau, if he doesn't drive it well, then he's not going to win. Because golf has become so much about shortening these crazy long courses that if you don't drive it, you're in such a disadvantage. But he didn't drive it and has the rest of the game to win by 5 strokes. Pretty amazing.
And Bob Casper and Brian Taylor were on the show all week talking about how long the drives were on this course. So that is pretty impressive for Scotty.
Amazing. All right, stay tuned. We'll have more next. Our friend Krysten Peek joins us at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. We'll get her thoughts on what's out there for the draft. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
Chris Carbon covering Arizona State for Sun Devil Source. I think I was in junior high the first time I heard that. Arizona State's a sleeping giant. Does it feel like ASU can put together multiple great seasons?
Certainly seems like they're set up for that. They have 2/3 of their starters back from last season. You still need luck with injuries, and then they're going to have to continue to take care of the ball. And if they do those things, and I expect that ASU will be competing at the top of the food chain in the Big 12 in November with a chance to repeat as conference champions and return to a CFP berth. I've been following ASU for over 30 years and covering ASU professionally for over 20 years, and this is the best that I've ever seen a returning roster in that span. So the expectations are high, and they should be.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. These guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's just a good take foul, you know. If either Angel gets wide open 2 points, or we send him to the free throw line. Nothing malicious about it. It's just a good take foul. Every basketball player knows that.
That is the one and only Caitlin Clark. The WNBA is back, and yes, she continues to be a major story. And she played great, right, over the weekend, triple-double. The Fever are a WNBA favorite, but what she was talking about right there seemed to grab the headlines because it was Caitlin Clark v. Angel Reese once again. And if you watch the flagrant foul, Krysten, it was exactly what Caitlin Clark is describing. It was a take foul. We've all done it, right? The other player's going to get a layup. So you just pull the old Karl Malone and swipe down on the ball. You get a bunch of arm, but they're never going to make the shot, right? And you send them to the line. Yes, basketball play, take foul. Now, Angel Reese's response to the take foul was to act like Caitlin did the take foul with a machete. Like her arm was going to come off. She flailed to the floor. Whatever, she sold it. She got a flagrant foul. I don't care. But it is funny to see the flop because it was absolutely a flop. Do you disagree?
No, and I think obviously it just adds to the rivalry, right? Because it is Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark.
Now, Angel Reese bounced right back up, Krysten, and she yelled at Caitlin Clark, "Are you crazy? You must be crazy." Now, in this circumstance, do you think Angel thought, am I acting crazy? Because I think I might be because I'm screaming at a woman over a take foul.
Jake, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if that thought has ever crossed Angel Reese's mind.
Isn't that like this word gets used a lot, and sometimes I think it gets used quite wrong. But isn't that like the definition of gaslighting? Like where you're yelling at somebody, "Are you crazy?" when you yourself are demonstrating the crazy behavior?
Yes.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of how that works? Now, I don't necessarily automatically side with Team Caitlin on every issue, but in this case, you have to watch the whole clip. Krysten, do you know why Caitlin Clark had to use a take foul because Angel Reese was going to have an automatic layup? Do you know why that occurred?
No. I would assume a blown assignment, maybe?
No. So if you look at it, the team is pushing in to get position for the rebound, and Angel Reese, with two hands, absolutely shoves some gal to the floor. Like the gal ends up on the floor, just shoves her. You can see Caitlin Clark turn her head and look at the ref and go like, "Are you going to call that?" And then the ball comes to Angel Reese, and she's about to get a layup, so Caitlin Clark fouls her. So not only did Angel Reese flop and overreact, but she also just shoved some gal, and that was the reason she was open in the first place.
I am watching it right now. Yeah.
Are you watching it?
Yep.
Just a complete dirty play. Two-hand shove right in the back. Gal goes down. Angel Reese gets the rebound.
So it's on a rebound, yeah.
And has a wide-open layup.
The Fever player is literally about to go up for the ball, and Angel Reese just shoves her to the ground right in the back.
And then has the gall to bounce up and be like, "Are you crazy?" No, I don't think Caitlin in this circumstance is crazy. No.
I do like the rivalry, though. I think it's good. It's obviously great for the WNBA.
I totally agree. And both players after the game, by the way, said the right thing. It was a basketball play. So, yeah, I mean, it's fine. We're talking WNBA here. We're talking about headline grabbing stuff. Talking about Angel Reese, two-hand shove right in the back, then has the guts to spring back up and yell at Caitlin Clark.
Angel Reese made one of the two free throws, by the way.
Yeah,
exactly. I was curious on that because her free throw percentage and her shooting percentages aren't great.
Well, she's not great. I mean, her personality is great, and she's in the WNBA. I mean, she's obviously good, but she's not great.
She's not a star.
No, she's
really.
not. Whereas Caitlin obviously is. So maybe, there's a little jelly there. All right, stay tuned. Krysten Peek, one of our very favorites, is going to join the show. Coming up next, it's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you, listen to Hanson Scotty coming up on Wednesday. They'll have Kids on the Move in studio promoting the Hope in Motion Golf Invitational. This isn't just a golf tournament. It's a chance to drive real change for children with developmental disabilities in your community. All right, it's time to talk a little NBA draft, a little NBA in general. Joining the show now, she is a draft analyst. She is the color analyst for NBA Future Now on the NBA app and NBA TV, and she's our good friend Krysten Peek. What's going on, Krysten?
Hey, how's it going?
Well, I'm much better than Ben, who crashed his car this morning. So it's
no.
Yeah, I know he's okay, by the way. But as I say that, I should say he's fine. Everybody's fine, but he's got a picture of it up on online. He's not had a good morning, to put it simply.
It doesn't sound like it.
And I said this earlier. You're like his favorite guest, so he's missing out today. It's a bad day to be Ben. So, but
we miss you, Ben.
I appreciate you jumping on, Krysten, and especially since it's the first time we've talked to you since the NBA draft lottery.
Or as I call it, the shaft.
Yes, the Jazz got the shaft, Krysten. Just how much did their bad luck cost them?
I don't know if I jinxed this because I was remembering the last time I came on and talked to you guys and they said, okay, where does the draft start? Like if we miss out on Cooper Flagg, where does the draft start? And I said, Well, listen, 1 through 4, you are getting A-OK players, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, and VJ Edgecombe. The draft starts at 5, and then that's where the Jazz ended up. So, listen, I just be glad that this isn't last year's draft and it's this year or next year. I understand, the Jazz are still in the rebuild process, and they're still going to have, the luck of the draw next year, I'm assuming. So, the draft starts at 5. There's still some great options there. You hear the name Trey Johnson, Jeremiah Fears as a point guard, someone who can manipulate that pick and roll very well. I also, I'm going to shout out Yegor Demon. He is kind of creeping up at the right moment. His pro day in Chicago was incredible. And you want to talk about a player that the Jazz have had ample time to watch and over at BYU and kind of over scout. I mean, it would not surprise me at all if he's at play at 5.
How about Dallas falling out of nowhere to get the number 1 pick?
It is unbelievable. 1.8% chance, and I've explained this now a couple times. What that means is, at the draft lottery, there's 4 different combinations, and that means, and so there's 1,001 different combinations that every team in the lottery gets ahead of time. So the Dallas Mavericks only had 18 possible ping pong combinations, and they landed, on the lucky goose. And it was funny. I was talking to Kelly and Ralph Flagg, and they said after the draft lottery, I didn't even look at the roster construction. I had no idea what it meant for Dallas. Like we had heard Giannis, might be wanting to move out of Milwaukee. But then, of course, Nico Harrison came out and said, no, we very much plan on keeping this pick. Draft night comes around, we will be drafting Cooper Flagg. And so the rich get richer. And then, of course, the San Antonio Spurs landing at number 2. I mean, they've got guards for days now if they end up taking Dylan Harper. So it was shocking, to say the least. And I feel for Jazz fans.
Ben's pretty convinced that number 2 pick is going to be made by Milwaukee.
It very well could be. I mean, I'm sure Brian Wright will take that phone call, and I'm sure discussions will be made. Dylan Harper will be the 2nd pick. I don't know if it'll be the San Antonio Spurs taking it. But that can very well be at play. And, what do we do in the West if it's Giannis and Wemby on the court together? With De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle, 2 back-to-back Rookie of the Years, I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, how do you get to the rim against that combo? I don't think it's even possible. Yeah, right. You don't. So, maybe that's the wise move for San Antonio, who moves into kind of a win now scenario. But if you're Giannis, don't you want to stay in the East?
I don't know. I've heard Giannis was very, he was happy to look at teams with no state income tax, and that would be Texas. And also, he's got a young family, a wife and 4 young children. His wife, Mariah, just had another baby girl. So do you want to stay in the East? I don't know if that's the priority right now in his mindset. And, Texas is looking really good, a smaller market in a win-now scenario in San Antonio.
So the Draft Bozo on ESPN threw out a report today that Philly could possibly be interested in trading for Lauri Markkanen, and the number 3 pick could be in play in a possible deal. Any thoughts as to the value of that for either team?
Sure. Why not? I mean, Philly doesn't need Ace Bailey. Philly doesn't need VJ Edgecombe. So I'm sure that they're happy to shop around that pick to anybody that is interested in either one of those players.
Does Philly need to reboot? It doesn't look like they're going to, but should they?
I think something needs to happen. All these injuries are not good. I love Tyrese Maxey. I, of course, love Jared McCain. I saw Jared McCain at the draft lottery, and I said, Jared, doesn't it feel like you were just here at the Combine? And he said, KP, I'm having a little PTSD. That week was very stressful for me. So he was happy to be there on different business, but I love those 2 players. I don't know what they're going to do with Joel Embiid. And time's a ticking. If you're going to implode, it either had to be for this year's draft or next year's draft and what's coming up. I just called 6 games in the Nike EYBL, and the general consensus from NBA scouts on session 1 is that the talent pool is kind of dropped off a little bit. Of course, you have Tyron Stokes, Brandon McCoy. After that, you don't know what you're going to get in a draft 2-3 years from now. And so if you are going to implode, it needs to happen now.
Take this wherever you want to go with it, but what were the headlines, the highlights from the Combine for you?
The highlights were, I love the NBA Draft Combine because we always learn something, at least I do. You look at a player like Cedric Howard, who was at Washington State and decided to enter the transfer portal. He committed to Duke, but was still going to go through the NBA draft process. And he showed up. He tested out of the waters. He shot lights out. And I don't think he's going to step one single foot on campus at Duke. I think he's going to be a first-round draft pick. So he was a really nice surprise and a very, very nice kid. And so he's going to interview very well. And Maxime Reneau, during the scrimmage play, he was by far the best player on the court. And then we got a chance to talk to him afterwards, and very confident. You're asking him something like, "Oh, what's the best attribute to your game?" And he said, "My versatility." And he said, "And that's every aspect of my game." He said, "I am the best 7-foot-plus three-point shooter in NCAA history. Look it up. I've made more threes than anybody. I'm a pick-and-pop dream." So he was very, very confident, and he backed it up with the way he played on the scrimmages. So those 2 players specifically were the ones that really shined last week in Chicago.
This is just a journalist question, I guess, but how nice is it, or what's the Combine like for somebody with your job where you get to talk to everybody because they're in one place in one time? Let me give you an example. I love the Summer League from a weird journalist standpoint.
Yes.
Not that I am one, but there are a bunch of people around you. You get to talk, you get to find out what's going on. Everybody's right there. Do you have that same experience at the Combine?
Absolutely. I love the Draft Combine because you've got all executives and scouts from the NBA side in one place. You've got all the agents. So if you're chasing a story, if you want access outside of the media availability, all the agents are there. No one can hide. No one can run and hide. The lobby in the Marriott is where everything goes down. The players are coming back from dinner or agents or parents, and that's really where you get all the tea. But the NBA does a fantastic job. You get 20 minutes. And even if no one is talking to a player during their media availability, the NBA makes them sit there for the full 20 minutes. So there's a lot of access, like you said, and it turned out at one point I was talking to Milos Uzin, and I said, "Oh, did you have any workouts before this?" And he's a projected, late second-round pick, played very well in the NBA Draft Combine. And he said, yeah, I worked out in Dallas and Houston and also for Utah for the Jazz. And I said, "Oh, what was your best workout?" And he said, "The Jazz." And so I went straight over to the beat reporters and I said, "Hey, you guys want to go talk to Milos?" He said his best workout was with the Jazz. And so just you pick up on little things like that and really get to know these kids personally.
All right. Well, we got to have you handicap our conference finals here, Krysten. Who you liking?
I love this OKC team, just from top to bottom. I'm sorry. I cannot get enough of them. And then I'm like, is any team hotter than the New York Knicks right now? Come on. And just the entire fan base. I think that would be a very, very, very fun series if it was OKC and the New York Knicks.
They got to get past my Pacers first. You want to know who's hotter than the Knicks? My Pacers.
They are very hot right now. I love Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh man, he's great. When that trade happened with Sacramento and Indiana, that Sacramento wanted to trade Fox, and you can confirm or deny this if you know inside info, but Sacramento wanted to send Fox to Indiana. They said, it's Halliburton or nothing. And what a wise move that turned out to be.
Unbelievable. And Tyrese Halliburton is a player during COVID. Remember, he's part of the COVID draft. I spent 2.5 weeks in Las Vegas. They were doing kind of like a quarantine workout, just prepping for the draft. And I spent 2.5 weeks in the gym with him. And I said, I don't care where this kid ends up. He is going to be very special in the NBA. And look, I was right. And he's got a cute dog, Ames, and his girlfriend Jade is just lovely. I love everything about. And how about Andrew Nembhard? He's just like the playoff master. He did it last year. He's come alive this year. You're right. Maybe you've changed my mind. Maybe I do want the Pacers to win this series. I do love what the Pacers are doing.
Well, I automatically dislike the Knicks all the time, so that kind of helps. But I also love Pascal Siakam, man. New Mexico State, great.
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, this entire series, say what you want about small market teams, but between the Pacers and OKC and the way that they're rolling, it's been a really fun playoff run.
I think the West wins. I'm with you. I tend to lean toward OKC having the advantage against Minnesota, but I actually think either one of those teams should win whoever comes out of the East.
We're gonna get a treat between two of the best guards, the young guards between Anthony Edwards and Shea. So sign me up. Get your popcorn. I'm excited.
Yes, please. I totally agree. Krysten Peek, we appreciate you, all of your work. We're going to be following you religiously leading up to the draft, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon.
Sounds good. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks, Krysten. Always a lot of fun. If you didn't get a chance to hear all of that, we'll make sure and get it up in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. You can always get the whole show. We get the interviews isolated for you, too. And you can always go to KSLSports.com. And, of course, you can watch us now on YouTube or KSLSports.com. Do we have the producer cam working yet, Christian? Is that happening?
It's still a work in progress.
That is our next step, though, right? We're so people can. I say this because my daughter actually brought it up. She said, "Why don't we get to see Christian?"
Really?
Yeah, she said that. Yeah, Sadie did. She said, "Why don't we get to see Christian?" I think it's great. We get to see you, Dad. Why don't we get to see Christian? Said it's coming, honey. It's coming.
It is a work in progress.
The hundreds of thousands of Christian Esparza fans out there will get a chance to see him during this show. Of course, you can see him on the Saturday show because we're doing YouTube for that too, right?
I don't think so.
Not yet?
The guys that produced the Saturday show, they haven't had the training on that stuff yet. But
I see. Well,
I'd imagine one day we'll get it.
We got to get that up.
Well, we're not very high on the priority list.
You should be.
I do want to say I saw a funny thing on Twitter. Krysten Peek, our last guest, spoke about the Marriott Center, and that's where everything went down.
Not the Marriott Center, the Marriott. The lobby of the Marriott, yeah.
There was a Beyonce concert in Chicago as well. So between Beyonce fans and the people there for the NBA Draft Combine, apparently the Marriott was quite the crowd.
Yeah, that's a spicy combo. That's a spicy combo. Have you ever been in like Vegas? You go down to Vegas a lot. Have you ever been in Vegas when there's a real interesting mix of like concerts or events that are in town?
I would imagine so. I don't know anything specifically, but there's always kind of a big crossover of people there.
NASCAR overlapped with a fish show when I was down there once. So that one was kind of funny. Like a bunch of smelly hippies and then a bunch of NASCAR fans.
And now they have the Sphere and all the big name artists that are always playing there.
Have you been yet?
No.
I haven't.
We got to go, though.
I know. I've got a buddy who's trying to put together a trip to go see the Dead and Company down there. And I would love to do that. But it's outrageously expensive. But it does look cool. It's supposed to be the ultimate like concert experience. And I kind of don't like that James Dolan owns it.
Oh, he does? I didn't know that.
I'm not in a huge hurry to support or put any money in James Dolan's pocket either. So I'm a little conflicted.
I think they're building more too.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I don't think that's the original Sphere. I think there's another one somewhere around the world. I think.
Probably Dubai.
Yeah, Dubai or something like that. Yeah. I don't think that is the first one. I could be wrong about that. James Dolan, what a buffoon. What if you need any reason to root against the Knicks? And there are lots of them. But James Dolan is really where you should start. And And he's losing a ton of money on the Spear right out of the gate, which does make me happy. All right, stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next. We'll talk more basketball It's the Jake and Ben Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Now, every team has been assigned a Heisman contender. If you were going to pick somebody who'd win the Heisman Trophy, the Heisman Trophy is built for numbers. The Heisman Trophy is built for flash. And Devin Dampier for Utah could actually give you both of those things. If you're actually going to list somebody on every team, fine, that's fun. And Utah, I think if you're really talking about it, inside the state of Utah, the person who would actually have the ability to be able to do it, I think is Devin Dampier.
I agree with you. If he is able to do the things he did at New Mexico on a Power 4 stage and is even more productive in the past game, he's going to make some noise. Is it going to be Heisman noise? Utah would have to have a remarkable season. He has the type of skill set and he has the type of electricity that will get that kind of attention when he's successful.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you to join Hans and Scotty coming up on Tuesday from noon to 3 at Sound Sleep Medical, 8941 South. 700 East in Sandy. Sound Sleep Medical. Want to remind everybody to listen to the Saturday show with Christian Esparza every Saturday from 10 to noon. They do a good job. But you threw out a poll over the weekend, Christian. We can further this conversation. You got a good Jazz convo. Reset it for us.
Basically, we just want to know among Jazz fans, the Jazz have been in this rebuild, I guess you could say 3 years now, depending on where you want to start it. But how much longer do Jazz fans want this rebuild to continue, right? Because it's been 2 drafts with the 6 young players, plus you can throw in Walker Kessler, and they still don't really have a franchise cornerstone player. So it looks like the rebuild isn't quite close to coming to an end yet. And I guess Jazz fans, how much longer do you want this to go on?
And the response was?
Most of them. So our choices were like, I can't take it anymore, 1 more year, 2 more years, or as long as it takes. And the leading option was, I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, because you're talking to fans.
Right.
And it is a bit of a, and I'm not coming at you, it is a bit of a silly question. Because what do fans want? They want to root for a winner, and they want it yesterday, right? But I think the last option is really the answer.
And what surprised me, Jake, was that got 20% of the votes, which was way more than I thought it would. Because to your point, right, you would think that fans would vote for I can't take it anymore, and then 1 more year was the second highest vote getter. But 20% of people voting for as long as it takes.
And by the way, that could mean tomorrow. It could mean whatever. Right. I mean, the idea is that you have to find your cornerstone, and there are many ways to do it. Right now, the really only direction that's presented itself is the tank for the draft. But think about throughout Jazz history, and think about builds or rebuilds or however you want to put it. Karl Malone was a late lottery pick. John Stockton was a late lottery pick. When they flipped from John and Karl to Booz and Darren Williams, Booz was a free agent. Darren Williams was the number 3 pick that they traded up to get. Donovan Mitchell was a draft day trade for a late lottery pick. Rudy Gobert was the 27th pick. The reason that I think as long as it takes is the answer is because they don't have who they're going to build around on the roster. Now, however that person appears via draft or via trade or via free agency, they don't have that yet. And I don't think that Lauri Markkanen is that. I think Lauri Markkanen is a nice piece on a really good team. I think Lauri Markkanen is an all-star. I don't think that Lauri Markkanen is a franchise player. And listen, I don't think Donovan Mitchell actually turned out to be a franchise player. It didn't. It didn't work. They never got past the second round. Now, it was a lot of fun basketball, and it was the best, regular season record in the league one year, and they were really good. But second round of the playoffs. So what do fans ultimately want? because I've seen it both ways. Like Ryan Smith comes in and says, we're going to build to win a championship. That is the priority. That is what we're going to do. I've also seen, fans accused Larry Miller forever of building a good enough team to make the playoffs because that's where the Jazz made their profit. But he was never committed enough to go all in to truly win a title. So what? What do fans want? Do they want to be good enough and have some winning seasons? And by the way, this is fine. I mean, I enjoyed the Carlos Boozer, Darren Williams years, in the Donovan Rudy years, and even the Carl and Stockton years. They didn't get necessarily to a championship, but you can't speak out of both ends of your mouth if that makes any sense. Like, the last regime didn't do what it took to win a title, and this regime is coming in and saying, we're going to do whatever it takes to get a title. Well, most people will tell you in order to be a championship contender and get a title, you have a top 5 player in the league. Locke has a whole theory about all this stuff that you need a top 5, and I don't want to misquote him, but it's like you need a top 5 player, you need a top 20 player, and you need a top 50 player. I mean, that's kind of the formula traditionally for success in the NBA. And even if you look at this year's playoffs, I mean, I think Ant and Shea, which I think those two teams, Minnesota and Oklahoma City, are the favorites to win the title. I think Ant and Shea are both that, top 5 dudes for sure. Tyrese Halliburton, I think, is a top 10 guy. Some people will tell you Jalen Brunson is a top 10 guy. I personally don't think he is, but again, others can make a rational argument for just that. So the Jazz don't have that player. They don't. And I think Lauri could be a part of that, but I don't think he's that. I mean, if they paired him with like a Cooper Flagg, maybe you've got that going, but they're not there. So what do? Maybe the pick you build around this year isn't even the number 5 pick. Maybe it's the number 21 pick. Maybe you hit a home run like you did with Rudy. Again, it's less likely the further down you go in the draft. But we see bozos at the top of the draft all the time, and we see all-stars at the middle and bottom of the draft all the time. It's true last year. It's still true this year. You have to go find the dude. You have to find your player that you think fits that or is going to grow into that. The idea at this point in the Jazz rebuild of them drafting for anything but a home run swing is crazy. Draft a role player, even at the top of the second round or the bottom of the first, you're picking a guy who's going to have high upside. Kyle Filipowski has tremendous upside. Whether he reaches that potential or not is we'll see. But there's tremendous upside in that guy. A lot of people thought, this is just an NBA-ready dude. You're drafting a guy to be like, with the potential of being like a Şengün. I don't know if he gets there, but that's the style of player that they drafted. And it was a good pick, or at least proved in year number 1 to be a pretty good pick, and he has limitless potential. If he figures out how to guard on a somewhat consistent basis and the shot continues to get better, that could be a really key piece. If he hit the potential, it could be a guy to build around. Now, I don't necessarily predict that, but it's what's still intriguing about Taylor Hendricks is he could actually be that piece you build around. Now, at this point, it's less likely, especially after the injury, but that's what you're drafting. Cody Williams, you're drafting him to be that guy, whether he turns into it or not. I think if Cody Williams puts on 20 pounds and really hones in his shot, I think he has the potential to be great. You got to do that with where they're at. And if you hit 1 out of 3, well, there you go. But they've got to find that player. And if they have to trade up to 3 to get him, and Lowry's a part of that package, which is the rumor out there from ESPN today, well, then that's what you got to do. And keep giving yourself, you hear GMs, the kind of buzz phrase around is bites at the apple. Give yourself as many bites at the apple as you possibly can. And if you're a half-decent talent evaluator, one of those is eventually going to be a home run. Dennis Lindsey drafted Rudy Gobert, traded for Donovan Mitchell, home runs. They've got to do that. And it's going to require patience from the fan base, sure. But as we talked about last week, I think the patience from the fan base, whether they respond such in Christian's poll or not, are way more patient than they think. They just need to find that next body, that next player to build around. And trust me, they don't even have to start winning at a great clip. Once that happens, fans get behind it, and there's all of a sudden hope, and there's all of a sudden excitement. And somebody on the roster could generate that. I mean, we could have debates about who still has the possibility to be that home run. But I think a lot of fans are thinking, go get it with the 5th. Go get it with the 3rd if you make that trade. You just have to find it. And they had to re-sign Lauri last year because you couldn't let that guy walk, and he earned that contract, and he wanted to get paid and was willing to sign it. And him leaving in free agency is the worst-case scenario. You re-up it. He's willing to do it. He hasn't demanded anything, but you got to figure out maybe how to parlay that valuable asset into more bites at the apple or a veteran. For the fans that can't take another second, flip Lauri for Giannis and put that with the 5th pick, and maybe you're going somewhere. Obviously, I don't think that is all that likely. But as long as it takes, I think is the proper answer, whether fans realize it or not. But look what happens when you pick the wrong guy, pay the wrong guy, or make the wrong decisions. It costs teams opportunity big time. I think re-signing Michael Porter Jr. has closed Denver's title window. You can't make those big mistakes. You can have misses, but you can't have mistakes. We've talked about that on this show a number of times. If Taylor Hendricks doesn't work out, that doesn't submarine your opportunity. But if you make the wrong signing, you make the wrong trade, then it can really prevent you from being good ever. I mean, see the Sacramento Kings and all their moves over the last 20 years. Big mistakes kill you. And so we've talked about this forever. The Jazz have the luxury of being able to be patient and not be the desperate team and not make desperate moves. And ultimately that should, if Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck do their job right, provide opportunity for the Jazz to figure out what their direction is and who that direction is going to be around. But right now, until they find that, it doesn't make any sense for them to win any games. So let's see what they do in the draft. Let's see what they do with the 5th pick, and maybe they do. Maybe they trade up to number 3. But I get the fans' heartburn. I understand. But unfortunately, it doesn't matter. Does that make any sense? Like, they're going to be as patient as they have to be. You can't just make stuff happen out of nowhere, and sometimes when you do that, you make huge mistakes. See the Phoenix Suns, who made something happen out of nowhere, 2 somethings in Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, and it's going nowhere. And now they're going to have to consider trading their franchise guy who they already had because they made these catastrophic mistakes. So patience. Feel like I'm talking to my 7-year-old here. Patience. Just got to be patient. Stop with the what's the plan, Phil. Stop banging down the Jazz door. Let them do their job and go find the players to build around, whether it's the draft or some other way. Again, look at Indiana. Look how they rebuilt. They made a savvy trade. They made several savvy trades, right? Paul George demanded out, so they traded him and landed Domantas Sabonis. Then they flipped Domantas Sabonis, even though he's an all-star in the Eastern Conference, to get a young hotshot point guard who they obviously identified because he was the guy they demanded. Sacramento tried to give up to De'Aaron Fox. They said, we want Tyrese Halliburton. And now all of a sudden, what was a shocking thing to the franchise in Paul George, their all-star player demanding out, all of a sudden plays into the next generation of an all-star player. And Indiana didn't have to tank at all. So it's wait for the opportunity and be in the position to pounce on it. That's the name of the game. We've been talking about it forever. All right, stay tuned. We wrap up the show. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Kurt Heelan from NBC Sports and ProBasketballTalk.com.
Ultimately, if you're in a market this size, you need a break. And this lottery did not give it to you. And it hasn't under this new system. I mean, look, Detroit turned it around this year because they'd gotten the number 1 a few years back with Cade, and they made some smart moves around him. But this is the 3rd straight year the team with the worst record has fallen to 5th. The league has to reconsider how they're doing this lottery. I get that this was a reaction to the tanking of the 76ers and the process. But if the team that's got the worst record keeps landing this deep, it's not okay. They need to do something to give these teams like Utah that are not perpetually trying to lose and give them a chance.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two niggas on the airways, talking sports. They got it made jokes and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarf. Oh my.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. This segment is brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. Peach Doors and Windows. I think, was it on the air or off the air we were talking to Ben about his take on the running of the Bulls in, where is that, Pamplona?
I think he brought it up on the air.
Did he? And how they made fun of some poor guy whose life stream it was to run with the Bulls. But I found another stupid sports tradition that I can't fathom why somebody would want to do this. Now, I would love to go to the Preakness. You like horse racing, Christian?
Yeah, it's fine. It's cool. I like that it's like a tradition kind of thing, and all of the winners of the big one all come from Secretariat, and I think that's pretty cool.
I like horse racing. Now, I'm not a horse racing guy where I'm following it. I barely even watch the three main ones, the Triple Crown. But I love going to Wyoming Downs. It's like my favorite thing. We're going to Del Mar Downs this summer. I'm thrilled that we are going to do that. If you've never been to a horse race, it's super fun. And I would love to go to the Preakness. But on the infield at the Preakness, there is a tradition called the Preakness Toilet Run. And this was a while ago. I don't even know if this is a tradition. I just found this video. But I'm going to go with it as a tradition, where you get up and you run across the top of all the johns, the porta potties, while the rest of the infield throws full beers at you. Or at least mostly full beers.
That would hurt.
Doesn't this look like the stupidest thing? Why would you ever do this?
It looks like Wipeout, kind of. You remember that show?
Yeah, it's like my favorite show of all time. Yes, of course I remember Wipeout. Incredible television. You think you could make it all the way across? I'm surprised this guy didn't get brained with a full beer.
Without the cans being thrown at me, it would be a maybe. But trying to dodge cans of Miller Lite, I don't think I could.
No, I don't think I could either. So my old man was at the Kentucky Derby when Secretariat won. Speaking of that.
No way.
Yeah. He and his college buddies road tripped it and went down there, and he was actually there. I don't know
what a year to do it.
I don't know how much he remembers of it, but he was, in fact, there when that happened. Day off tonight from the NBA. I know we're all, it feels like, I know we had Saturday off too, but this feels like the first night off for NBA playoffs that we've had thus far.
We did the research on the Saturday show. It was basically nonstop action every day since April 17th. And Saturday was the first day we had off.
But again, Saturday, it doesn't feel like it counts.
Right.
This feels almost like emptiness. We've got the Western Conference Finals that starts tomorrow night in Oklahoma City. And then game one for the East is on Wednesday, and then we kind of have it every night again for a little while. So I don't know, Christian. What are we gonna do tonight? You got anything streaming? What are you into these days? You've got Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that you've got to dive into.
We did finish that.
Did you finish it already?
We did over the weekend, yeah.
I haven't even started. How bad was it?
It was not as good as the first season, but it's juicy as always.
But the first season wasn't particularly good.
No. It's not. I don't think it's going to be a cultural staple like a Jersey Shore or whatever.
What was the name of the boyfriend? Ben and I couldn't think of the name of the boyfriend, the weird guy that it's like Coyote or something like that.
Yeah, there's some interesting characters.
Yeah. All right.
Did you see? Speaking of the night off, though, did you see Aaron Gordon basically complaining about going every other night?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think it's just that. I think it's complaining. I think there are injuries every year in the playoffs and have been for a very long time. And I think it's just complaining. Every other night? Are you kidding, Aaron? In fact, most people say in the playoffs it's really an advantage because there are no back-to-backs. And you can get into a rhythm and all this stuff, but I don't know.
Don't take series to 7 games. Close it out sooner,
Yeah,
and then
I
you
totally
have a longer
agree.
break.
But if they did something that led to injuries, you can make the connective tissue. You can make that connection. But if one has nothing to do with the other, they have not changed the NBA playoffs, scheduling basically ever If anything, they've put more games in between, or more days in between games on like travel days and stuff like that compared to, say, like the 1980s. So if they really sandwiched together the schedule and it was different from other years, then yeah, I'll listen to what you're talking about, Aaron. But really, the NBA has done nothing but, I mean, they added time to the All-Star break. They've had fewer back-to-backs. They've started the season earlier. Everything has gone in that direction. So you can't automatically turn around and be like, this schedule is brutal and causing all these injuries. It's like, no, I don't think one caused the other. And I feel bad that Aaron Gordon was a little banged up for game number 7, but really, how bad is your hamstring if you can actually play?
Right. They said grade 2, which is about 4 to 6 weeks, and then they announced that he's going to play.
And he's going to play. Okay. Yeah, it's like,
Steph was out.
I'm sure it's so bad. Yeah.
If you want to point a finger, point to the 82-game regular season. I think that's where you should start.
Yeah, they're never going to fix that, though. And that hasn't changed either.
Right. Because the NBA doesn't want to lose money.
Right. So if this were always the case, why didn't they change it in 1987? The NBA's been around for a while. I don't know. I thought it felt like a whining to me. Is what it felt like. And then he lists off all the stars. He's like, well, this guy's hurt, and this guy's hurt, and this guy's hurt. And it's like, well, did the schedule cause those injuries?
Do you think he would have complained if they won?
No, absolutely not. He and the Nuggets are going nowhere, and he knows it. And by the way, I don't think they would have won if he were healthy.
Again, taking the Clippers to 7 games and then immediately taking the Thunder to 7 games. Credit to Denver, but yeah, that's tough. That's a lot of wear and tear.
LeBron's superpower, and you can throw Michael Jordan into this too, but LeBron truly, his superpower is that he's always healthy. He's I shouldn't say always. He had that one season with his first season with the Lakers, right, where he got injured. I think he had like a groin thing or whatever. But for the most part, considering that's a guy who's played in so many playoff games, so many, and dude is healthy. And he does take care of his body. I got it. But a lot of it, too, is just stupid luck. People step on it wrong, do whatever. I mean, Steph's hamstring, he was just running. I mean, he wasn't really doing anything. He got hurt, right? Michael Jordan was always healthy throughout his career for the most part. Karl Malone and John Stockton were always healthy. It's not just that they work hard. It's also that they're fortunate. We watched Dante Exum, who just would randomly get hurt, like different parts of his body. All of a sudden, he's getting hurt. I mean, it could, people blame the international play and like, why was Dante playing internationally? And that's why he got hurt. Dante would have gotten hurt playing pickup ball. Dante would have gotten hurt walking to the bathroom in the morning. I mean, that guy had bad luck. He was injury prone. And good for him for kind of taping it together and making a career. But it was shoulder, and then it was knee, and it was the other shoulder, and none of it was connected. It was all just random. Dude had bad luck. Brandon Roy, you can look at I almost said Lamar Odom, Greg Oden. Look at these guys. A lot of that stuff is just, the good Lord made you that way. You're vulnerable to this sort of thing. I mean, Yao Ming, his feet took him out of the league, right? A lot of it has to do with being fortunate. And Aaron, I'm sorry your hamstring was kind of hurt, but it's basketball, man. That happens. Talk to my guy Hans, who I know is out of town. But Hans will tell you that he had one injury. I think he broke his hand maybe when he was trying to make the Colts or something like that, and it didn't even take him off the field. And he's just fortunate that he came through D1 football and into the NFL and all this stuff unscathed. I mean, it's fortunate. Fortune is the right word. All right, Hans and Scotty G. Speaking of Hans, he's off today, but Scotty will be here. I'm actually going to stick around and do a segment with the great Scotty G. So don't go anywhere. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.